Sternberger.
Here.
Lundell. Here. Montgomery.
Here. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If I could get an approval of tonight's agenda.
So moved.
Motion by Lundell. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Jepson. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Public input. Public input is intended to afford the public an opportunity to address concerns to the City Council. The public input will be no longer than 30 minutes in total length. Each speaker will have no more than 3 minutes to speak. Speakers may address topics relevant to the governance of the city. Speakers must sign up in advance, must provide their name, address, and the topic they intend to address. Comments must be on topic, respectful, pertinent to city business, and adhere to the applicable data privacy rules. Any speaker that violates these rules will be asked to sit down, and if the speaker refuses to comply, they may be removed from the meeting. Speakers shall not address topics that are the subject of a public hearing. All such comments shall be made at the public hearing. The City Council will not generally act on issues raised by the public input, but may choose to schedule consideration of the item on a future agenda. Mr. O'Gorman.
Good evening. A couple weeks ago, I asked about Project Tulip, and I couldn't find anybody that knew anything about it, and I don't know if anybody does yet. I'm wondering what it is. There's been an expense of like $650 to the city engineer. There's even been cookies billed out to the project, and I don't know of any council members that know what it is, but you're approving expenditures for it. So I'm curious to find out just what is Project Tulip, and I certainly don't want to have to go put in a data request to find out what it is, because it seems as though it's getting awfully hard to find out the simplest of public information. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on, presentation tonight. We've got our 2022 audit presentation from Abdo Solutions. And Brad, I don't want to butcher your last name, but thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me. So Brad Faltasek is my
There we
name
go.
with Abdo. So you should have in your packet the financial statements, the presentation, and the executive governance summary. I'll go through the presentation, which is this document. It's just a summary of what's in the financial statements themselves. So if you have any questions, we certainly can open the financial statements and look at those. Otherwise, hopefully everything is addressed with this. So, and do you all have this in front of you? Okay, good. All right, so the first page of that just kind of outlines what we're going to go talk about, and that is our auditor's opinion and responsibilities. We'll go through the general fund results, other governmental fund results, enterprise fund results, and then key performance indicators where we compare your city by size to other cities within the county as well as throughout the state of Minnesota. So the next slide, auditor's opinion, we are issuing an unmodified or a clean opinion on your financial statements, which is the opinion you're looking for when you have an audit performed. We're saying that we believe everything in the financial statements is materially accurate and reported in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. The state auditor's office requires us to also go through a series of checklists related to different state statutes that they want us to test as part of our financial statement audit. So we'll go through those series of checklists, and we issue the Minnesota compliance letter and note any findings or non-compliance in that letter that we may find with that testing. We are not reporting any non-compliance with the statutes that we tested this year. So that's a clean report with that as well. Next slide, we just have one finding that we reported, and this is the common finding. We've been reporting it for many years. Just given the size of your city, it's the preparation of the financial statements. We do prepare the financial statements as part of our audit process. It is management's responsibility to prepare the financial statements and our responsibility to audit the financial statements. So since we are doing both, and we do both for probably 90% of the cities we work with. So it's not an uncommon finding, but it's just here to really show that it's your responsibility to prepare them and it's our responsibility to audit them. So if there's anything that's missing in those financial statements, it's that's been withheld for us for one reason or another, we wouldn't know about it. We aren't able to give an opinion on it. Then we get into the results. So first, the general fund. This first chart here shows the top line shows the budget each year. The next line, the yellowish line, shows your fund balance at the end of each year. And the percentage on the yellow line is the reserve percentage of your following year's budget. So in the black shaded area in there is a fund balance policy that you passed a number of years ago to keep your fund balance above 40 to 50%, or keep it within that 50% or above that. So you have been consistently above that at 76%, ending this last year. Then on the next slide, we have the general fund budget to actual statement, just a high-level summary. We have the original, final budget, and the actual amounts. So your actual revenues came in about $210,000 over what you'd budgeted. Your expenditures came in about $118,000 over what you'd budgeted. A lot of that dealt with the hailstorm that occurred last year. There was a lot of license and permits, and then on the flip side with the expenses, there was higher inspection fees to go and inspect those. So that's really mainly the big variances in those two categories. Next slide, we have the general fund revenues by type. So this shows where your revenues are coming from to support your general operations in your general fund. You can see pretty consistent from year to year. Your taxes have steadily increased, not significantly, and then your intergovernmental revenues over the last 3 years have steadily declined. So you did get some COVID money back in 2020 that kind of fell off. You did receive ARPA funds, and then as those monies get spent, you'll be recognizing those revenues.
I feel like we asked this question
Yep.
before. Other.
Other.
What qualifies as other?
That's going to be any, like, I think transfers in are in there. If there's any or miscellaneous revenue, contributions, donations, those types of things. Interest revenues in there. Just kind of a lot of things that just kind of aren't significant. The next slide is your expenditures, same by department: general government, public safety, public works, culture, and rec. Most departments have stayed pretty consistent here. Again, you have an other category. So the main thing that's in there is your transfers out. You transfer about $800,000 out of the general fund interest, and that shows up in that other category. But public safety increased somewhat this year, again, related to inspections. They were higher than budgeted, but all the other categories stayed pretty consistent from year to year. Next slide, your special revenue funds. You have 3 special revenue funds. These funds are funds that are segregated because they either have a restricted or committed revenue source. So a third party is saying, or the council is saying, these revenues are going to be used for a specific purpose. So you have the library, cable television, and fire department operations. And what we're looking for here is just ensuring that your receipts or your revenues are meeting your expenditures in these categories. So don't see any really declines in any of these categories from year to year. So those are doing what they should be doing. Debt service funds on the next slide. These are your governmental debt service funds. You can see that the top 3 there have no longer bonds outstanding. Any remaining resources in those funds can be transferred to other funds at council's discretion. Then you have about $4.1 million of bonds outstanding in the other 4 funds there. The chart there shows your debt service requirements for the governmental bonds over the next 10 years. So over through 2027, have about a $500,000 total debt service payments related to these funds, and then it kind of drops off when some of those bonds fall off. So this would not obviously be taking into account any bonds that would be issued in 2023 or after. Capital project funds on slide 11. Kind of small, but you do have quite a few capital project funds. You do a lot of these funds are just capital equipment funds or monies that you're setting aside for capital purchases at a future date. Here we're looking for if there's any deficits in these funds. You want to be taking a look at these when you're going through your budget process, and how are you going to be funding some of these deficits. If there's projects that have started, just maybe the funding hasn't came in yet. Just make sure you're aware of where the funds are going to be coming from to pay these funds off. You did pay off the 3rd Street, or you did close the 3rd Street Bridge Fund this past year. There was a $102,000 deficit in that fund, and you transferred money into that fund to close it. Then we get into your enterprise funds, your water disposal funds, and ambulance. These charts basically we're showing a cash flow on these charts. So the top bars there show your operating receipts compared to your operating disbursements plus your debt service requirements. So what we like to see here is that your receipts are meeting are covering both your operating disbursements plus your debt service requirements in each year. So you can see each of the years presented. 2019 was pretty much a break-even year, but from after that, your receipts have been meeting your disbursements and debt. Lower chart there is your cash balance from year to year. Is from 2019, 20, and 22, pretty consistent with your cash balance. So that's kind of what we like to see. That line at the bottom is kind of the minimum amount we wouldn't want to see your cash balance go below for operations. So anything above that line could really be used is available for capital or those types of expenditure or expenses. So same thing with the disposal fund on the next slide. Receipts have been meeting your debt and operating disbursements, so that's good. Your fees are where they should be as far as meeting that requirement, or not requirement, but just minimum recommendation. And then your cash balance is there. Again, cash balance has been very, very consistent in this fund over the last 4 years. You can see that line at that minimum line has gone down. You did pay off one of your sewer or your disposal bonds this past year, so your debt service requirements have come down on that. So that's why that has declined over the last couple of years. Ambulance fund, so same thing here. Receipts have been meeting your disbursements, and then cash balance has, over the last 2 years, been pretty consistent. It was up from $215,000 in 2020, and in the last 2 years have been around $400,000 in cash. So slightly below that requirement. That's a 6-month requirement though, but you gotta take a look at operations, and maybe you really don't need 6 months requirement, but we have that same line in there for this fund. Your stormwater fund, next slide, same thing here. Receipts have been meeting disbursements and debt. Cash balances have been fairly consistent, increasing slightly from year to year. You can see here that line, that minimum line is towards the bottom. You don't have a lot of operating expenses on an annual basis in this fund. However, if there is a capital repair that needs to be done, it does use up those resources pretty quick. So I wouldn't say that you have excess cash in this fund necessarily. You're not just hoarding money there. Recycling fund, the next slide. And I believe this is your last enterprise fund. So again, receipts have been meeting disbursements, and same thing here, $219,000 in cash, so a nice reserve there to support this fund. Now we get into the next slide is just showing your total cash in the city over the last 3 years. So about $10.2 million in cash in 2020. You've increased that to 12.4 over the last couple of years. Some of that had to do with the ARPA dollars coming in, so those monies are out there, but have steadily increased that over the last few years. Then now we get into the key performance indicators. So here we're comparing your city of your size to other cities within the county as well as throughout the state. So the line in these two charts here is your tax rate and taxes per capita, and the orangish color are other cities of similar size throughout the state, and then the yellow is other cities in Goodhue County. So you can see you're kind of in the middle of the peer groups there, slightly higher than Class 4 cities across the state, but slightly lower than other cities in the county. On the tax rate, taxes per capita, I think you're right in line with other cities in the county. Then the debt on the next slide, here we look at debt per capita. This is total debt in the city. So you can see that's as you're paying your bonds down over the past years, the debt per capita has come down. 2019, you were quite a bit higher than your peer groups in this category. Over the last few years, you've reduced that down to right where your peer groups are across the state. Next slide, we have current expenditures and capital expenditures. So the current expenditures are all the expenditures in the city, your governmental expenditures, taking out any capital or debt service requirements. So your general day-to-day operating expenditures. You're right in line with other cities in both peer groups there. Capital expenditures, that's going to vary from year to year. The last 2 years have been pretty consistent in the city as far as what you're spending on capital, but quite a bit lower than what others across the state have been spending. Then the last slide is the water fund debt service coverage ratio and the sewer or disposal funds coverage ratio. So here we're looking similar to the charts we looked at before, but are your receipts meeting both your or operating expenditures and your disbursements? So I want to make sure we're looking for here is over 100%. So you're covering that debt service requirement. And in both categories, you are able to support 100% of your debt. Other than that, I'll take any questions.
Any questions from the council?
Are you going to go over that, like, 147-page report?
Would you like me to?
No, I
No, I wasn't planning on it.
I did have one question on page
Yes,
60.
sure. Page 60, okay.
At the very top of the
Yep.
page, I think it's with the Magnolia loan.
Okay.
It looks like, it says the loan was taken out on 2026 and is due in 2021?
Yep, that's not right. We can get that corrected.
Okay. Well, I read it twice.
That's a typo for sure.
That's all I had.
Okay. I like to see that you read it though. That's nice. Good job.
Any other questions?
I'll make a note of that.
Hearing none. Anything for the executive governance or the annual financial report?
Nope, the executive governance just gives some general communication that you can read through it. There's just required communication that we're required to give to you, so you can read through that, but there's nothing more in there that I haven't already talked about.
Wonderful. Thank you, Brad. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
We need a motion to approve the audit that we just received. So it's an actionable item. If I could get a motion to approve the audit.
So move.
Motion by Johnson,
I'll second.
second from Lisa. Any further discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Thank you. That gets us to the public hearing. Resolution 2684, approving the administrative subdivision of parcel number 52.500.0030. Neil, if you'd like to explain this one.
Yeah, remember a while back, we approved a purchase agreement for a lot split of Malloy's. This is just fulfilling that. We're going to be closing on that, I believe, Friday. Been working through half the stuff this weekend, or anyhow. We're closing on this, that little sliver of land for the 3rd Street project. Part of it's in the right of way, and that's what it is. And we've been through, I think, this before.
Yeah. Any questions or discussion from the council? Hearing none, I would accept a motion to
There's a
approve.
public hearing.
Technically, the public hearing is open, if anybody would like to speak during the public hearing. Speak during the public hearing going twice. Third and final call for speaking during the public hearing of Resolution 2684. Seeing none, we will close the public hearing. And I would accept a motion to approve Resolution 2684 from the council.
So moved.
Motion from Lundell. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second from Jepson. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. That gets us to the consent agenda. Consent agenda items may be adopted under one motion as presented or may be removed for discussion and resolution as council business. Item A, just and correct claims, the accounting period ending on June 15th. Item B, meeting minutes for the June 6th, 2023 City Council meeting. Item C, approve the Verizon Fourth Amendment to Communications Site Lease Agreement. Item D, Resolution 2685, Cannon Falls concurrence with CSAH 14. Item E, approve Christy Buck to practice massage in the city limits. And item F, Resolution 2686, authorizing fund closures for the year end of 2022. Any that the council would like to have pulled down?
Item A.
Item A. Okay. Any others? Hearing none, I would accept a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion from Diane. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second from Mr. Jepson. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. That gets us to council business. Item A, just and correct claims. Diane.
In reviewing our payments to our annual funding agreements, going back over the things, it looks like we're on track with everybody. Cannon Valley Senior Center this year received their $5,000, Historical Society $5,000, Chamber $5,000, and they have consistently received those over the past, well, at least since 2016, various amounts. The Cannon Valley Fair, we never fulfilled our $5,000 agreement last year with them, and we haven't yet paid it this year, so I wondered when we were going to be authorizing those payments.
I think those funds are currently being held because the land dispute, the legal fees, we need to revisit. The city said that we would take the legal cost, but that was under the assumption that it was basically an agreement and just some paperwork that needed to be done. The cost was much higher than that, and that was had at a meeting in the fall, back when Mayor Altoff was still mayor, so I was not present for that meeting. However, those funds have not been given, nor I think has there been a meeting with the fair to say, how do we want to handle this? Because those legal fees were higher than expected, therefore that might affect the donation.
What was the difference between the anticipated legal fees, which we were going to cover, and the actual legal fees that were billed?
Great question. That would be a question that we'd have to probably look a little bit deeper. I would assume it would probably be a difference. I probably shouldn't spitball. Pass that over to Neil.
I will. About 12 to 15,000.
Can you, by the next meeting, have an actual figure on that for us?
Sure.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Nope, that was it.
Then I would take a motion to approve item A, the just and correct claims of the accounting period.
So
Motion from Lindell. Do I have a second?
A second.
Second from Lisa. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. That gets us to the reports. Maggie is not here from the chamber. Finance Committee, Derek, would you like to? Or I can pass that off to Neil possibly?
Sure.
Neil, would you like to take the Finance Committee? I believe that most of it was covered in tonight's.
I have it here now.
Dude.
We did some discussion about the mall, the water tower thing that we passed.
Yep, Verizon.
And just some more discussion about that land that Riverside Terrace owns. And John Birch Park project discussion. So that was it.
All right. Anybody from the library board want to share what happened at that meeting?
Sure, I went. We went over the preliminary budget, got that approved. They're looking for a home delivery volunteer, and we have a potential new community member for the board, so.
Great. We'll go around the horn here. Sarah, is there anything you'd like to add? Laura? Zach, first meeting, anything? All right, well, welcome. Chief?
I talked about it a little bit at our last meeting. I just want to remind our residents and people that will be coming to visit them that during the parade, we will be shutting down different parts of the parade route before the start time. The east side will get shut down the first, and then the west side will get shut down second. Our goal would be to get people to where they need to be. Just plan to come a little bit early so you can get there before those sections get shut down. Especially if you have somebody who has mobility issues and you need to drop them off in front of the house. We just don't want cars and parade units in the same space. That's all I have.
Thank you. Neil?
Well, I want to officially introduce Zach Logelin as our new license and permit tech. His first day on the job was today, so we look forward to working with him.
Great. Council members, I'll start over here. Laura, anything from you?
I'm good.
Lisa?
Nothing today.
Ryan?
Congratulations to the Bomber baseball team, 4th place. Not
There
bad.
you go. Not bad. Derek? Diane?
Well, I'll ask the question that Babe's asked, I think, the last couple of meetings. What is Project Tulip? It's on our finance reports.
We'll talk after we adjourn.
Okay.
Just wanted to wish that everybody hope that you all had a wonderful Father's Day for those who, whatever father in your life, family members that are fathers. It was a great day, a great weekend. Again, Bombers, 4th place. It was a lot of fun listening to it on the radio, or for the people that made it up to St. Cloud. Wish we could have made it to that championship in CHS Field, but a great season. Like I said last meeting, as I stumbled my way through, have a happy 4th. Enjoy the fair, enjoy the parade, enjoy the weather. And I'll see you guys, unless we're on some meetings and committees together, we will see each other on the 11th. All right? I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Diane, second by Derek. All those in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.